Another way to think about drawing the human skeletal structure is to use the egg-shaped oval. We start off with just simple gesture drawing, using line, then moving on, looking for simple shapes, and then we gradually progress to where we start to use cubes. I personally prefer to think of and use the idea of the egg-shaped oval. Just on an interesting side note, if we were doing portraiture or drawing the human head, the egg-shaped oval is a very simple way to draw the human head. And I use that almost exclusively with drawing the human head. But additionally, in terms of drawing the human figure, I find that the shape of the thoracic cage, the rib cage, definitely resembles the top part. If we were to take an egg and crack the egg, I feel the thoracic cage, it's a little bit narrow through here, it gets wider, and it definitely resembles the shape of the egg-shaped oval. So if we were to crack the egg and take this top half, it would represent the rib cage, and the bottom part definitely resembles the shape of the pelvis. So getting back to the idea that we had before, showing the different possibilities and movement of the cubes, remember that it can tilt forward, it can lean backwards, it can move to the side, it can move to the other side, it can twist and turn this way, it can twist and turn this way, it can twist and lean back, twist and lean back. There's an infinite variety of possibilities that the human torso can twist and move into. And so coming up and using these simple shapes makes it very helpful and very beneficial to drawing the human figure, especially when you get into different areas where it's very difficult or challenging to see. You can have foreshortening where things are turned and coming toward you. If you think of these basic shapes, it's really helpful. So for purpose of this right now, if we were looking at the head, you can see it's wider on the top, it's a little narrower through here, and the light falls up and through here. And then it's just a matter of adding the additional structure. If we turn it the other way and crack the egg and separate it, you can see how this resembles the shape of the rib cage, and then this resembles the shape of the pelvis. The one thing that's a little bit different in terms of using cubes as opposed to this is the rib cage is relatively flat this way. It's wider this way. Whereas if you look at the egg-shaped oval from the top view, it does not have that flat section. If we were drawing animals, there would be more girth out here and it would be narrower through here. Whereas the human is wider through here and it's narrower through here. We are bipedal. We spend most of our time walking upright in our legs. Our shoulder blades sit on the back of our rib cage. And animals, their shoulder blades tend to be on the side and they walk on all fours. They are quadrupeds. Okay, so keep this in mind when drawing the human figure. In addition to the cubes, sometimes you might find it easier for you to keep in mind the concept of the egg-shaped oval. In this particular case, it's just facing forward. I'll change here in a different so you can see a couple different angles. But for right now, for the most part, it's just in this shape. Pelvis is separate. The extremities would be coming out of here. This top part is the rib cage. And again, if we can keep in mind where this is, the rib cage and the pelvis, the extremities can go up, they can go out, they can lift up here above the head. But in general, the rib cage and pelvis are going to stay basically in the same position. Things might turn just slightly, but always look to see where the rib cage and pelvis is when you begin your drawings, and you'll have a great deal more success. It's starting with arms and feet and legs and different parts of the body can definitely be a challenge. If you start with find the rib cage and pelvis and add the rest, you can do that even from memory. So now I've turned this at a slightly different angle. As you can see now, we split the rib cage and the pelvis. The rib cage is a little taller through here, the pelvis a little bit smaller. They both are basically about the same width. The rib cage is now coming toward us, so there's foreshortening. So as you can see, you're seeing a slight top view of the rib cage, and then the pelvis is this way. So let me switch this so you can probably see a little better. So we have the foreshortening, this tilting forward, and then we have the pelvis coming in a different direction. So the light falls on top and the chest cavity falls into shadow. As we can see here, the light's coming from above, landing on the back surface, and everything on the chest area falls underneath and is absent of light, and that makes it much easier to understand the principles of shading. And one last view here, using the egg-shaped oval, you can see now that the light's coming from above. We simplified the shape. By using this, we can easily see where the form would be. This falls into shadow. We have the reflected light, we have the highlight, we have the light, and then we add the pelvis. So this would sit on top of it this way. You can see through the bottom of the rib cage. You have that foreshortening where the top part is moving away, and that's very helpful. Then if you were adding muscles and so forth, once you get this basic shape of the rib cage and the pelvis, you can easily add muscles on top of it. Remember, drawing the human figure is very much like a human puzzle. We have a given certain number of bones, we have a certain number of muscles. All muscles have an origin. They all have an insertion point. So if you know where all the anatomical parts are, it's simply a matter of putting all the pieces together. And then when you're shading it, knowing this simple shape, you can use either the cube, you can use the egg-shaped oval, either way, whichever you choose. I personally find that once you get closer to the egg-shaped oval, you get closer to how it's actually represented in nature. But the cube is definitely helpful for really basic simplified form and understanding shading. So this is the anterior view with the rib cage tilted back, the pelvis down, and you could even turn it more this way if you wanted. You could have the legs and extremities, arms going off in any direction. If you get the rib cage and pelvis accurately portrayed, then you have an infinite amount of possibilities, and that's where your creativity can fall into play. And you can make these little characters on your page and develop your own compositions. Most artists, this is how they thought up and created a lot of their concepts and their ideas. So light up above on the egg-shaped oval, pelvis turned in a different direction. So now we're going to take the concept of the egg-shaped ovals and do a series of gesture drawings. Let's begin with something maybe, we'll start down here and work our way up. So we'll start off with the upper thoracic cage, adding the egg-shaped oval, then we'll connect the vertebral column, and keeping the same width more or less, going to add the bottom part of the egg-shaped oval, and let's have a foreshortening a little bit, maybe with the leg coming toward us, and we'll have it bent coming back with a gesture of the foot, and let's have the other leg kind of extended out, pushing off. And we'll have, actually let's turn this so it's coming toward us a little more, so we see the top portion, since we talked a little bit about foreshortening. And we'll have this arm coming here, laying on the arm. We can have this arm coming down here with a little gesture of a hand. And we'll have the head kind of leaning down. So now we'll go in and kind of put a little bit more detail in here. So we have humerus, medial epicondyle, we have the radius and the ulna, and turn the head here at an angle, see the back of the head. Let's see a little bit of the sternum through here. And that bottom part of the egg-shaped oval. Then we have the head of the femur. And the knee. And then the fibula and the tibia. And gesture of the foot, sort of a wedge shape. And now the head of the other femur. And the femur in here in the kneecap in this area. Then the tibia and the fibula. And the other foot in here kind of driving off. And let's get the other arm in here. Medial epicondyle, humerus, radius. And just a quick gesture right here on the ground. So we have a little gesture in here with some foreshortening, so you could see how the rib cage, we're kind of seeing the top of the rib cage through here. And the pelvis. And you can kind of see how simplifying that shape makes it much easier to do this sort of thing. And just fix a couple of things right here. Make this a little longer. And put a side plane to that femur. And then let's we'll add another figure right in here maybe. So a little bit of movement. So here we go, that egg-shaped oval of the rib cage. Then we're gonna turn the pelvis a little bit. So we have kind of get some movement in here. And here we go, the femur. And let's extend this out, kind of maybe a little bit like it's a dancer in here. Classical dancer. And arms up in the air. Another arm extend it out. So now rib cage and the triangular shape of the scapulas, and a little thickness here to the vertebral column. And now we have the lower portion of the egg-shaped oval. Head of the femur, thinner through the shaft, gets thicker near the joint. Again here, femur. And extending out that lower leg. And we'll see the bottom of the foot in here. And an indication of the head. Slightly turned. And we have the humerus in here now. And the radius and the ulna. So you can see how it's helpful to really know the anatomy, the bones of the body. And there we go. The other humerus. And let's have this arm coming in here. And a little gesture of a hand. And actually we could have this so she's have this up on its toes. The great trochanter, the lesser trochanter. Then we see the bottom of the foot, the plantar view of the foot. And have this leg coming in front of the dancer's leg. And this arm needs to come in front of that leg. Medial epicondyle again. Lesser trochanter, great trochanter. Medial malleolus, lateral malleolus. And we'll add another figure in here. So you have the upper egg-shaped oval in here, lower egg-shaped oval in here, and we'll have this leg coming back, and let's extend the other leg so that it's coming up. And we'll have the arm up and the head coming back. Okay, so rib cage, sternum, vertebral column, egg-shaped oval for the pelvis. Then we're going to have in here the great trochanter, and the femur. Now we'll add the tibia and the fibula, and the foot up here pushing off, so we'll have it bent. And this other leg, I want to have it extended up, so it's going to see the connection through to the other side. And the tibia and the fibula, and we'll have the foot pointed off, so it's kind of elegant. And remember, I'm trying to keep this as light as possible in case I would like to make some changes in here. And hint of a kind of graceful hand. This head up in there. So there we go. So in just a few seconds here, we get a couple of minutes or so, we get an additional figure. So let's add another figure in here because it's kind of floating. So I'll have this one turns front view, turns just a little bit to the side. Egg-shaped oval up here, and the pelvis turns slightly in here. We'll connect the vertebral column, and in here. And we'll have an arm extended out in here, another arm extended in there.
shoulder, great trochanter, lesser trochanter, the femur, that leg coming in there. This leg will go slightly behind. And into the foot. And we'll have the head here looking down. Clavicles would be in there. Then we have the humerus. Thinner through the shaft, whiter at the joint. Just a little hint of a gesture of a hand. Gesture of a hand here. Make this just a little longer. Patella being here. Tibia. Fibula on the outside. Lateral malleolus. Medial malleolus. Foot. And see, can we add one more figure? Maybe we'll add another figure right down in here. So rib cage, vertebral column, pelvis. Just have a guy kind of looking at this spectacle, seeing, trying to figure out what's going on. The upper leg tends to go that, and then the lower leg will slightly have a little bend toward it. Then we have the wedge-shaped foot. And we'll add the other leg and have this one slightly bent. Patella. This foot, put it on the ground. Then we have in here, we have our humerus, radius and ulna, back of the elbow, and just a little gesture of a hand. Let's get this egg-shaped oval for the head, vertebral column, cervical vertebrae, the neck, scapula. Get this S curve in here of the vertebral column. Okay, so now we have, right in here, we have the top of the egg-shaped oval and the bottom of the egg-shaped oval. And here we have the top of the egg-shaped oval, bottom of the egg-shaped oval, bottom of the egg-shaped oval, top of the egg-shaped oval, where you can see it coming toward us a little bit. Humerus, with the ball and socket there. The femur in here. Remember, make it thin through the middle, wider as we go. Connect the vertebral column to the pelvis. Egg-shaped oval. Lower portion of the egg-shaped oval. Connect the cervical vertebrae. Lesser trochanter, great trochanter, femur, patella. Here we go. With this figure, we have rib cage, pelvis, femur, and let's literally get a little hint in here of placing this on the ground. We don't want them just all floating in space. So we quickly blocked in the gestures, 5 figures. This head's turned down, so we want to show the turns in that angle. This rib cage is going under, so it'll fall into shadow when we get to that point. So what I'll do is, you can see how we begin and how we just use these simple egg-shaped ovals to develop a composition and have figures intertwined. Actually, I think this would be maybe sort of interesting if we just stick, you'd have more balance if we put, I think, another figure in here. So we'll add an extra one. And we'll have rib cage turning this way. And the back, we'll have the pelvis in here. Kind of turn behind that leg. And I'll have this, I'll have a leg there, and a leg here. So you can see how if things aren't working out or don't feel like they have balance, you can easily just add more figures. And it should help to give a little bit more balance and a little better sense of design. And in here we have great trochanter, femur, and see the bottom of the foot, the plantar version of this foot. So that's kind of a little bit, we'll make this one so it's floating a little bit. And let's have the head looking up this way, and we'll have this arm coming up. And let's have this arm coming down. So humerus here, radius, and a little gesture of a hand behind this leg. Humerus in here. We have the elbow, and then we have the radius and ulna, and a gesture of a hand. since it's the back view, let's have a hint of the scapulas, that triangular shape. Great trochanter, lesser trochanter. Can make this just a little bit longer, make a few changes in here. So, because I kept it light, I can easily make these changes. And in here, we have the femur, the other leg, tibia, medial lateral epicondyle, or malleolus, I should say. And there we go. Plantar view of the foot from the as seen from the bottom. So now I feel it's a little bit more interesting. So what I'll do now is I will go ahead and do a time lapse where I'll go ahead and shade it so that you can see what it would look like if it was all, or just shade it a little bit more. But egg-shaped ovals, and you can see before we did the cubes, now we're moving on to the egg-shaped ovals, which I actually feel is a little bit more realistic, but it definitely helps to make it so much easier to draw the human figure, and in this case the skeletal figure. If you simplify the shapes instead of looking at all the detail of every bone, if you simplify the shapes, you can pretty much draw a figure from any position, and then it's just a matter of studying and learning anatomy and adding that to it. So make sure you have a really good understanding of the bones of the human body, and then from there you can progress to learning the muscles, which we will be getting to fairly soon. So lots of different positions, different movement, egg-shaped ovals, advancing from the cubes.